Oh, we got that.
Okay. Well, here we are.
Yes. Hi, Chuck.
Once again, you're back
Hi.
from your vacation.
Back from vacation.
This is Doug Balzer, Pastor Doug Balzer from River Street Church of God.
And this is Chuck Saban, pastor at Zion Lutheran Church.
I'm almost going to say
I
Mount
almost wanted to
Zion.
say Mount Zion. I had somebody say Mount Zion Lutheran Church to me the other day, which was,
I kind of like the ring.
it was interesting. In fact, that was last night. So,
We're going to change our name. I think so. That sounds good. Mount Zion. And then we're not a Z.
We all could have been the A church.
Yeah, that's Amazing Grace Lutheran. But anyway, we are doing a podcast called Old God. You can see it, Where Art Thou? And this is a theological quest, Doug. It's not a political one.
Oh.
I'm for a while, I've given myself a timeout. Go sit in the corner on political questions, on political debate. I don't want to go there right now in my life and my heart. My heart feels like it wants to go to theology and asking God, where are you in relationship to all kinds of things?
I like that.
Yeah.
I have been so burdened by the whole political environment and not that it's not important.
It's important.
It's just that it has become in so many ways convoluted and extremely complex to navigate.
Oh, extremely, and easily it divides good people.
Yes, it does.
I mean, I have people in my congregation that are very firm on both ends of the spectrum, it seems like, and so I would rather pursue theology.
I agree.
And I think that this theological pursuit, is kind of dwarfed in our present environment. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's time to lift it out of the woodwork, because I think it has a lot to contribute to one's faith, into one's well-being, on how we think about life and how we live life and how we treat each other on planet Earth. Yeah.
We only have one planet Earth, or at least that we are aware of.
I tell you, that's our podcast today, is Planet Earth. It's climate change, and there's this difference between climate change in definition and global warming.
Yes.
Global warming is just one aspect of climate change. And global warming is about global warming, about the planet warming up. And all the science says that, presently is saying, there's no disagreement among the scientists that the planet is warming up degree by degree. Mm-hmm. And in the last 7 years, it's been alarming for scientists, anyway, the amount of global warming that has taken place. But I think what is even more alarming is that not only is science worried about global warming, but it's all the other climate changes that are beginning to take place. Mm-hmm. My dad recently asked me, why are there so many fires now in California?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He said, what is going on? He said, why can't they, now hear that, why can't they keep it under control? And one of the thoughts was that possibly forest management was an issue.
And that has been one of the things that's, again, with all the fires that we had last year on the West Coast and this area, forest management has come up as one of the big subjects in conversations.
But there is no dispute that there are more fires.
No, there are no disputes that there are more fires, not only here in what we see in North America, but what was seen in Australia and in other segments of the world as well, too.
So, Doug, we'll start with you. and I hope to say a few things too. But where is God? Oh God, where art thou in relationship to climate, our climate? How does God feel about our planet? I mean, what is the theology that God has presented to us in the Bible, for example?
Well, I think it takes us right back to Genesis chapter 1. I don't think that it does. I know it takes us right back to Genesis chapter 1 in the respect that we watch where God is putting things together, the whole of creation, moving it from chaos and formless and void to where it becomes ordered and put into place, and in many ways, in that he calls it beautiful, good, in so many ways, so that it is. So his pronouncement on the world, and that is that this is something that is extraordinary.
Yeah. God was extremely proud of what he had created in terms of each aspect of the planet. Each of the days kind of spells out a different aspect of what was created.
Yeah, and if we look at that, it's kind of as if a way that God is building a temple for his dwelling, and where a convergence of heaven and earth were going to be together. In that respect. And then, of course, that crowning aspect of what happens on that final day of creation, and that is he places that which is created in his own image within that.
Right.
Within that garden, and because he had created a garden planet for us as human beings to be in.
Well, and I think that you would agree, not only for us has he created this planet, but for all living creatures.
Yes.
And it's pretty obvious, even before humankind was created, there's this section in Genesis 20, it starts with 22, God blessed them, and he's talking about the living creatures, the great sea monsters and the winged birds, and all the creatures that he had created on the face of the earth before humankind came along, and he says this to them. See, he says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters in the sea, and let the birds multiply on the earth. So there's this desire of God. We're talking about theology here, the study of God. He wants every type of creature that he created to multiply, and instead what we're experiencing is this endangered species list. And I wonder what I don't have to wonder what God thinks of the endangered species list.
Well, I don't think we have to wonder on that as well either, because we have to see the care and the detail and everything that God put into creation, that every creature has its place and has its purpose and has its reason, and his desire was for all of those creatures to thrive.
Right, exactly. Now, I remember way back in biology, and that takes quite a bit for me to remember that, but when I moved from the 6th grade to the 7th grade, and I was taking biology class, and he introduced on the blackboard the different systems, the life cycle systems, and how different species depend upon other species, and so forth. And God, of course, when humans come along, we are meant to manage that system and to make sure that system is going to work.
We're meant to accentuate it. We're meant to work with it in a way that not only for human thriving in that respect, but also for the whole of the thriving of the whole planet. It seems that what we see in our theology in Genesis, and that is this is a cooperative thing that is being worked in together in a relationship with God. It isn't just the humans on their own by themselves.
I think it's unfortunate, Doug, that some of the Bibles that are printed out of the Hebrew use the word rule. When it comes to verse 26 of Genesis 1, then God said, let us make humankind in our image according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and all the livestock and all the wild animals rule over. But the Hebrew word is much deeper. It doesn't mean just rule.
No.
Other translations say, and let them have dominion over. Now that's a little better. Dominion is but dominance comes into that word, and to dominate the species. That's not quite the Hebrew word either.
Yeah.
The better word.
Well, there are others that just to use the word authority in that as well too, but I don't know if we actually can give a really good word for it other than a cooperative relationship.
All right. Stewardship.
Yes.
We are to be good stewards of the earth. Let them steward the earth. We are meant to be like the managers, it's not like Jurassic Park. There were managers of a Jurassic Park. But if we were, we would have to manage that, right? And keep one species from really being a problem with others. However, they're in the life cycle. You know, when you think of Yellowstone and the reintroducing of the wolf pack and how that helps all the other species,
other species to thrive better.
Yeah.
There's that interconnectedness that is so profound.
So I think we're introducing some theology here, saying that God wants us to take care of the earth, and He says it in His Word. We are to He says it to the creatures themselves: be fruitful and multiply. And we as humans are with all the talent and the skill that we have, the image of God. He wants us to make sure that this is managed well and that this happens well. And so when we look at what's happening in terms of climate change on the earth and how that's affecting, once again, we're back to, and we've said it in earlier podcasts, the human impact. Is the human impact, are humans a bit out of control with themselves? And and I guess I include myself in this because I buy things that I probably don't need that hurt the environment.
Oh, I think that could be true for all of us, and in so many different ways, and that we consider how we have built whole economies and such that are based upon things that are not necessarily good for the environment. In many ways, some of those things have made life better for human beings, but not necessarily good.
Right. Now, I don't, I want you to understand out there that we've made a commitment, and this isn't an easy commitment, I don't think, and that's to not be political on these podcasts, but to be theological. It's extremely difficult when you see God, when you read the scriptures, and God has a strong opinion about what politics has a strong opinion about. I know that the big oil companies would like to keep doing what they're doing. The coal companies would like to keep doing what they're doing. I would like to keep driving my gas-guzzling hog right across the face of the earth and contribute to the greenhouse effect that is happening on the face of the earth. And when we think of the amount of pollution that goes out of some of these factories to make products that we humans feel that we need, and I say it that way because I'm not so sure that we need as much as we think we do. And so the question is where is God at in relationship to coal? Where is God at in relationship to petroleum products? Does God even care Does he even care? Does he even care that we're trying to drill oil out of the ocean, and then there's always an
An
accident?
accident of some sort, and we
Always.
see massive amounts of oil that are spilled into the
Right.
into our oceans. You know, we have to look at the aspect that this creation that God has given us, and that we have put into place to be, cooperatively stewarding in that, because we are part of that. We're part of that equation, and that we are part of the whole life cycle system of things that are going on in this planet.
Thing
Of
really
anything,
has the graph that we're looking at that some of you might not be privy to. You look it up in NASA. Looks like that, if you could see it. And just to interpret it to you, see, we're theologians. We were talking about this on our break. We're theologians. We're not scientists.
No.
We can't tell you whether climate change is going on or not. We can't. We don't have, but we do have, a lot of evidence that is presented by NASA, saying that it is actually a fact that 97% of the scientists do say that climate change is they're setting off alarm bells. 97% of the scientists, and all these organizations. I mean, there's page after page of organizations, scientific communities that are saying that we need to change the greenhouse effect that's going on. So from a theological perspective, Doug, God may be warning us right now of a natural disaster headed our way through all of these scientists. He may be warning us. And because we are steeped in politics or a certain side, one side or the other, or because we don't want to change our lifestyle at all, we could be caught off guard here. And it could be apocalyptic. And from a theological standpoint, God can reboot.
From a theological standpoint, yes,
And
God
in
can reboot.
In Revelations, now we're going from Genesis to Revelation. In Revelations, he talks about a new heaven
and a new earth.
and a new earth. And the old elements have been melted away.
They have.
We know this is going to happen from Scripture. And are we seeing the beginning of the end in that respect with the heat that's happening? The effects of climate change. Right here from that NASA put out. What are the effects of climate change? And temperatures will continue to rise. Okay, frost-free season will lengthen. Changes in precipitation patterns across the world will develop. There will be more drought and heat waves. Hurricanes will become stronger and more intense. Sea level will rise 1 to 8 feet by 2100. Let me see. What does this one say? Arctic likely to become ice-free. Okay.
Which is not an appealing thing.
Okay,
at all.
This kind of feeds into Revelation, this prediction of the end. Now, we're theologians.
Just so you know, you've taken me somewhere I wasn't expecting you to take me, but that's okay.
That's what a podcast is supposed to do, Doug. It's supposed to take you to a place that you haven't ever been before. I just want to give you something to think about.
But, the one thing that it brings me back to think about is that one thing that God did start us out in a garden. And in the end, places us back in, he brings us into a garden planet. In that situation, and then we see that in Genesis there, and then we see there in the end of all of it, in that God places us all in a garden city in which He Himself inhabits as well with us. That place of kind of like what God is doing in the respects of this human project that we are all part of, and that is the place where God intended for us to be where God intended for us to be at that place where we were going to be seeing the melding of heaven and earth together in that cooperative relationship with him, to where we decided that we thought we could handle this whole human project better ourselves.
Right.
And that's where he's going to bring it back to where it's going to be back to where we are at a place of relationship and that with him again, where God is in the direction of the human project again in the end.
Okay, so that's the heavenly, and I've never been a big fan of that heavenly vision like that. And I don't know quite why. I don't know if it's the way that I was raised or anything, but and I'm not saying I don't like that. Whoops, I need a little bit of water. That I don't like that kind of a vision or kind of a proclamation that, he's going to make everything all right and that's going to be okay. But one of the things that it feeds into me is this, I've heard it before where people say, well, it's going to all end up anyway this way, so why do we need to work on world peace? Why do we need to get along with our brothers and sisters? There'll never be peace in the Middle East, so why work on it? You know what I mean?
That's in no way is that theology meant to intend that type of a conclusion. But I see how a person could take it there in that respect.
So I think it's possible for God to just let us ruin our earth, and not rein us in. It's kind of like this story that preachers like to tell and preach. I've heard this story over and over where there's a huge flood and this guy, he prays to the Lord that the Lord would save him and his family, and so this. A neighbor comes by with this boat, and he says, "Well, get in. Well, I'll take you. We're going to safety." And the guy says, "No, I prayed to God that he'll save me. That's fine." And so it, goes on, and then next comes the rescue team with the helicopter, and it's sending down. And it's sending down the ladder and stuff. No, that's okay. God is going to help me. You remember this story?
Oh, I remember the story.
And so
I've never used that one,
then
just so you know.
Dies. His family dies in the flood. They die and they get up there, and then he takes God to task. Why didn't you save me? And God said, "Hey, I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter. What did you want?" How would God warn us if we were headed to a natural disaster? What would that look like?
And that's where the thing that comes into place is really one of the areas that I think is so important that we learn from the Scripture, is to see the semiotics and the signs of God's interventions, God's communications, and that with humanity throughout it. Of course, we know that God used prophets in those respects like that, but he also
maybe
used
this podcast could be prophetic.
That may very well. I don't know.
Did the prophets know they were being prophets at the time? So
well, there were some that did,
but others probably didn't know.
No, there are others that probably didn't know they were being prophetic.
What makes me angry is the politicization of something like climate change.
Yes,
the politicians. I think that if all the politicians would just go home for 5 years and just let the present laws go the way they are and just let things settle down, we'd be far better off in 5 years than we are now.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
Well,
I'd really have to ponder that thought for a little bit to think about how I would think about that in that respect,
Keep paying the forest rangers and all of that. Keep paying the rest of the people that are doing all the other things, but send Congress home.
Well, there are a lot of issues when it comes to political power and that, and I'm just gonna say, where you're going.
Our commitment is not to be political. It's meant to be just theological. But I think sometimes God just wants us to settle down, stop, be still. Be still. Don't hurt each other anymore. Don't fight each other anymore. Just you know,
And
this whole
and
aspect.
I think you did great right there with what you just brought out, and that because you take us right back to Genesis 1 with that. Because we really have so much in Genesis that sets the foundation of our theology throughout the whole of the Hebrew Testament and the Christian Testament in that respect. And that is that whole aspect of loving God with our whole being and loving our neighbor as ourselves, and recognizing that our neighbor goes beyond just the other human
people,
beings
just
that are
people.
there, but all the other creatures that are in God's creation, as well as the whole of creation itself.
Okay, so
Loving
I think,
our
Doug,
world.
we're going to end here with a challenge.
Okay.
And the challenge goes like this. You who are watching out there this podcast, the challenge is to read and study Genesis. Genesis 1. Read it and study it. Because God does create, what he creates is good. And he says it's good. In fact, when he creates humans, he said it's very good.
Very good.
Very good. And so I think that we as humans can be very bad. And we can be very bad with each other and with creation. And I think that every Christian can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm just speaking as a Lutheran.
No, I think we can speak that very well as in unison in that as Christians, that humans have been known to exact the worst evils upon each other.
Yeah, and so I think one of the red threads that's beginning to happen in these podcasts is that we think that God thinks that humans are a little bit out of control with their self-centeredness and their selfishness in relationship to each other and in relationship to creation.
Yes.
And in relationship even to God himself.
Yes. And
there are signs of that.
And there are signs of all that. And that's the whole thing, is learning to read the semiotics, which that is the study of signs, to be like the tribe of Issachar, to be able to discern the signs of the time, discern the signs of how God is present.
There's a prophet right there. Did you hear that? That was prophetic.
How God is present and at work.
So, God, where art thou? And please come down and straighten out this mess.
Amen.
So, till next time, we will see you. You take care, and God bless you all.
Thanks for joining us.